Good evening, everybody. My name is Iwona Blazwick. I'm director of the Whitechapel Gallery. Welcome to this evening, the launch of a wonderful exhibition called Talking to Strangers. It's the first really substantial survey of the work of French artist Sophie Calle in Britain, although we are very thankful to our colleagues at the Camden Arts Centre and at the Serpentine, who've given us an introduction to her work with smaller individual projects. But here we have an opportunity to see a real breadth of work brought together from her very earliest piece in 1979, really more or less up to the present. And I was going to start with a very simple question, which is, Sophie, what inspired you to pick up the camera all those years ago?
Seduced my father. My father was an art collector, and he wasn't very pleased with me and my life. And he was collecting conceptual art, and I watched carefully what was on his walls and tried to imitate it. And I guess that was the first gesture.
The camera is also a kind of way of mediating the space of the city, of giving a sort of protection, would you say?
The first work I did was following people in the street, and I did it because I was coming back to Paris. I was lost, I didn't know what to do, and I started to follow people just to be reacquainted with the city. I saw that since I had no desire, no energy to go out, by following people, I would just go wherever they would take me. So the first was to go back to Paris. And then I started to take pleasure, take photos, text, and...
Text is obviously very, very important in the work, and it's clear when you read the number of texts in this exhibition. They're very carefully calibrated. The language is very specific. Do you see yourself as much a writer as a visual artist?
I don't know.
But you know, we hear genres. There are different forms of address that relate to the journal, the novel, the diary, the film. I mean, they're all kind of different genres that we can hear in the language that you choose to use. And part of that language is also instructions. And I'm interested to ask, what interests you in following rules?
It's restful. It's a way not to have to think, just to be trapped in a game and follow it.
So it gives a kind of freedom, would you say?
Yeah, it does. It's too short as an answer, I guess.
No, but I can see. I mean, obviously, it echoes with conceptual and performance artists like Alan Capro, perhaps. But I think the difference is that he would give instructions to other people, but you follow them yourself. I mean, you're very implicated in all of your works.
Well, when I started, I didn't know anything really except what was on my father's wall. I was not an art student. The first time I entered a contemporary art museum was to show in it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, so I could not say I followed but, you know, rituals and rule of the game I always had, even when I was a child. With my mother, when the red fish died, we would make funerals with music and speeches. So that, I guess it was from my mother I got this love of rituals.
One of the kind of guiding principles of the exhibition is also this idea, perhaps of the Rousseauian idea of the social contract, that you make a relationship of trust with strangers, and they reward you in a way. Can you say more about that? To me, that's quite a sort of political and social element of the work.
Well, I don't know about take care of yourself if it was a matter of trust. But generally people, when they are asked something they have not prepared, you know, like if you ask them something precise, like would you please help me to move from my apartment to another, would you carry the boxes? They are prepared to say no. if you don't know them. But if you have something that's not expected, like would you sleep in my bed? And I mean, in this kind of case, not. I think their answer is why not, which leads to yes. So I think generally people always accept to play.
Yeah. In Take Care of Yourself, we see the creative responses to a letter, to, if you like, a male muse, and we see, in a way, many other works, and they could be a dance, a song, a piece of writing, made by 107 women. How did you select them? How did you choose to who to approach?
Professions, not personalities. I wanted to find all the profession who interpret, so in all levels of interpretation. But it was, and they all led me to another. The sociologue led me to a philosopher, that led me to a moral philosopher, to a semioticist. So I went more and more deeply in specializations. But what I chose is any jobs that interpret. I could have gone, if it was not for the Venice Biennale, I think I could have gone forever. I hope I don't go on forever with that show, because they will push me in my wheelchair and I will still show Take Care of Yourself. So.
I think what's the great achievement of that work is that it absolutely transcends the initial trauma and the anger and the kind of wish to understand and even revenge oneself on a letter of rejection, and it becomes a great work of art, which also is a kind of huge, it's a portrait of the women, and also it's a kind of giant participatory project. It's a tremendous achievement, I think, which is beyond the initial trigger. And one of the aspects of it is, as you go through it, you'll find that you yourself are kind of choreographed, in a way, all the way through the exhibition. You have to walk, you have to sit, you have to look up, you have to look down, you have to listen, you have to watch. So it's a very kind of experiential way of looking at photographs and moving image. Could you just say something about how you choose to stage your work or to present the work?
No, I could not say it. In the case of Take Care of Yourself, it was a lot with the influence of Daniel Buren, who was my curator at the Venice Biennale, because he watched my house, my walls, where it's very messy, many things, and he looked at my first works, the one which are upstairs, and he thought that the work was like the page of the book, and he didn't understand why my house was more free in the presentation, and my work was like more page book-like. So it's under his influence that I tried to play more with the shapes and with the materials. But before it was, I didn't think much. I just did things. I could not talk about why this or that. I guess it's linked to economy. The first works, I did them myself in my studio. I had no money, so they are small photos, black and white. So it has a lot of link with economy. And after I could not explain, I mean, except if I take work one by one, that's not the place here to do, but...
I think certainly for us, you know, it's that your work is important on many levels, but it's partly also because it, in a way, revolutionized how you could look at things. You can sit and sift through photographs upstairs. There's a work called Natalie, where you can just handle the photographs. Sometimes they take you on a journey. As you read across a wall, you yourself are going on the same journey. So I think for us, it's actually very challenging, but also very exciting to create these almost phenomenological experiences of word and image. I'm going to draw our conversation to a close now. I wanted to thank you so much for agreeing to present this work in London and for agreeing to work with the Whitechapel. Thank you all for joining us here tonight. Please join me in a big round of applause for Sophie Calle.